Hello there, and welcome in. Welcome to our video store. Welcome into Top Shelf Video. This is the Top Shelf Video podcast. This is a podcast, basically, I guess, celebrating movies because, you know, who doesn't like movies? But I think in particular, this is really more a podcast that is going to be a little bit more about video. The video store era, maybe video stores and video store like culture, I guess, really. My name is Eli.
And my name is Jaime. Welcome.
And Top Shelf Video podcast. So the idea behind this podcast, my name, like I said, is Eli. I live here in the Dallas area. I am one of the co-founders of the Dallas VHS Swap, which we have been doing since 2017. I think that sounds right. My friend Noel and I started up, wanted to do something fun in our area. And at the time, he was running a vintage, Piranha Vintage, a video, or not a video rental store, but it was a vintage store. But one of the things that I was able to convince him to kind of do was I had some of my old videotapes and I had a display rack, and we used to actually rent movies out of his vintage shop. And when we started the Dallas VHS Swap, it sort of grew into a little bit more of just bringing local collectors together and just cinephiles and people that really enjoyed the era of the video store. So we try to get together once every other month to swap movies, swap stories, drink beer, just kind of hang out. And then sort of that expanded into a partnership with some friends down at the Texas Theater down in Oak Cliff in Dallas. And for the past 2 years, we have done what's called the Video Crypt, which is a month-long I guess you could say celebration of the video store era and genre. And we have a mock-up of a mom and pop video store that we're calling the Video Crypt. And basically we have it set up for the month, and you can come down to the Texas Theater and check it out and walk around the aisles and the tapes that we have out for display. Nothing is necessarily for rent, but the idea is just to kind of give people that that feeling that you had when you were in the video store, for us that grew up in the video store, and for those who have never experienced the video store, it's kind of just like a living, sort of a living art installation.
It's like an interactive art.
Yeah, like an art installation. I mean, I know I brought you up to come check it out, and just the idea of just walking through the aisles and acting as if you were going to rent something for the evening, it's something.
Yeah. My 14-year-old was, he was blown away by the whole idea. When we were trying to explain to him, there was no Netflix. We didn't have any of that growing up. This is how we did it. And we would, he spent a good amount of time looking at cover art, reading the back, and he was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And, it was like we got to see it firsthand how an entirely younger generation has no concept of going to a mom and pop VHS after a week of school, tests are done, and then we get to go and pick and choose what we want to watch for the weekend.
And
it was awesome.
And I think that's really what we want to touch on a little bit in this podcast is the sort of the setup, I guess you could say, for this podcast is. You and I are imaginary owners of our own video store called Top Shelf Video, and the idea is really I kind of was thinking about this while I was helping with the Video Crypt, and when I was working at the Video Crypt in the month of October last year, was really like the interaction we had with the people that would come up, and like you said, my nephew walking through and picking up tapes and asking questions, and then basically acting as a clerk. I never had the opportunity to work at a video store. I wish I could have, but I think instead both you and I were projectionists, which I guess is the next next best thing is to be a projectionist of 35 millimeter. But I would have loved to worked at the video store, mostly just because the interactions with people and giving them suggestions and like trying to sell them on the idea, not so much for the business of it all, just because it's almost like it's something that you liked and you wanted to add to other people's like, I guess like library of movies that they could pick from. So I think a lot of what this podcast is going to be is like, obviously we're watching movies, but these are movies that we will likely recommend or not recommend. And we just kind of want to talk about some of those that we would put in our video store. It would have to be something we would want to decide if we wanted in our inventory. If we're going to have it in our inventory, like what kind of formats do we want in our inventory? And obviously, like, you know, because this is make believe time, it can be whatever format, and it can even be current day movies. Even if we want them in older formats, we can do that even if we wanted to. But yeah, just the interaction, asking, you know, people what style of movies they like and the things that sort of connect us to those movies might be part of the reason why we may pitch them. But yeah, that's kind of the setup, I guess, of our podcast. You know, there are more than plenty of podcasts to go into deep dives of trivia, movie behind the scenes and things like that. We probably won't touch up on too much of that. Maybe occasionally, if it somehow crosses the genre of the video store, maybe some of that trivia would be kind of fun to kind of go over. But I think for the most part, like the idea here is just these are movies that we would want to suggest to friends or maybe they have cool covers or the sort of the things that pulled us in. But yeah, it's just the idea, and I think you touched on it a little bit, which is the idea of having to pick out a movie, having to make a choice. I miss that in streaming, and I have tons of physical media, both VHS, Laserdisc, Blu-ray, you know, everything from top to bottom. And I like the idea of having to make a choice of what I'm going to watch and really think about it. And that's really what I miss from the video store. Whereas I think nowadays you don't have that same level of anticipation or like build up to the end of the week, right? Like, you know, you're in school all week or you're working all week, and you're everything's leading up to this Friday night or Saturday night that you're going to have to make some choices at the video store. And I miss that, you know. I think that's hopefully part of what we can sort of talk about, you know, in our podcast is that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there was nothing beats going to Blockbuster, or, you know, for us it was A1 Video down in South Texas, and then picking up a, you know, Little Caesars pizza in the same parking lot area, and you know, just that excitement of, you know, we had everything we needed in, you know, in our lap. We had a couple VHS tapes and some pizza, and our weekend was set. We knew what we were doing. It was always fun to look forward to.
Yeah, and I think yeah, and I miss that too, in the sense of like, regardless of our choices, we were going to enjoy those movies no matter what, because they were our choices. And you know, it's not like streaming where it's like, well, I don't like this one, let's just jump to another one. We were committed to these movies, you know, whether it was for that night or for the weekend. For the 3-day rental, or if it was a new release rental and it was a one-night rental, we had to bring it back the next day. Either way, like, I think we, for good or for bad, I think we forced ourselves to enjoy the movies because, you know, it was more about the experience than it was like maybe finding the best action movie or the best, you know, the best drama, the best comedy, whatever. Like, you know, I felt like there was more leverage or just more like grace given to the film to be able to do its thing. And yeah, I think the first movie we're going to talk about falls right into that wheelhouse for me. Yeah, I guess you ready to talk about this movie before we open the store today?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely. It had been a long time that since I'd seen this movie. So when you put this up, you know, first one in the batter's box, I was like, oh hell yeah! I I was already trying to remember how this movie played out, and it was really fun to watch it and sit here and watch it with you and talk about it, and I'll be like, oh shit, I remember the scene, and I had a blast watching this again with you, man. It was so much. Talk about a blast from the past. It was great. It was great,
I think so. The movie we're going to talk about to kick off everything, I guess our first tape that's going to be in the store is 1988's Hellbound, which is Hellraiser 2. I think I want to say it's written Hellraiser 2 Hellbound, but I want to say also that the original like output of it was just Hellbound, and then they kind of added the Hellraiser 2 later. But for me personally, this is a quintessential like video store rental. I think that this movie encompasses a lot of the things that we were sort of talking about, and I guess we'll cover a little bit about the movie itself. We may go into some spoilers, but I mean, to be fair, it's been quite a few years, so yeah, it's just a little bit off the mark. But Hellbound, which is the sequel to 1987's Hellraiser, is basically actually it is just a pickup of continuation from the original Hellraiser movie. So in a very like interesting way, the movie starts with like the previously on Hellraiser kind of intro, because you get all this like montage of things that you saw in the first movie, which is pretty cool. I don't know how helpful it is honestly to the viewer, because you get like this quick flash montage of like dudes in leather and people running around and a woman like stabbing people, and
there's
everywhere.
Just
blood and the music's pretty intense, and then there's a box, and all this is happening like in the is happening in that opening little montage sequence, and then it just you get the bong sort of sound, and then you get the Hellbound like Hellraiser 2, which is cool.
That was definitely something. I think that was done with, if you're watching the sequel, you had to have watched the first one. So it was just like in case you forgot this from last year, here's a recap.
Absolutely.
Which is, I don't think I'd ever seen that. Not, when we started to watch, I was like, I don't remember another movie being like this. I mean, TV doesn't count, but because I mean, now that's pretty commonplace, but this being 1988, I was like, man, shit, I don't remember ever seeing a movie that had a couple minutes of previously on. And that was awesome. That was awesome right off the bat. I'm like, oh hell yeah. I remember all this.
And
now.
the funny thing is too, is I think, at least for me, the first time we watched this, like this was actually the first movie I watched. I did not watch Hellraiser first. I watched.
No, we didn't. Neither one of us
watched Hellraiser or Hellbound first, and kind of went into it kind of thinking like, what? Which I think, again, going back to what we started talking about, which is like, we've already rented this movie, so like we're just going to kind of take it for what it is. Not that it was bad, but as far as like just immediately, like you're already going like 55, in a school zone, was pretty incredible. And so the movie kicks off. We see this what appears to be some sort of army person, not American army. It must be like British army. And he's like in a bunker or some sort of place, and he has the infamous lament configuration box in front of him, and he's kind of messing around with it. And effectively, we're watching the origin of Pinhead. And so you see this quick little montage of Pinhead sort of being birthed, I guess you could say, as a Cenobite. And then it immediately clicks. The movie just kind of goes from there. Again, kind of a lot to take in the first 5 minutes. But immediately goes like kind of into the movie, and we effectively are picking up from the movie that just happened, Hellraiser. Literally, Hellraiser 1 has ended. Kirsty, the main actor, who's played by Ashley Lawrence. She is in the hospital because they have taken her to the hospital, I guess, post everything that just happened in the house and everything that just happened to her. And so you're already there. And then quickly, you are also like, she's in a hospital. I assume she's in some sort of like mental ward, not really a traditional hospital, I guess. Yeah.
No, that was definitely a mental institution, because if she was making the claims of what she'd seen, you're crazy.
You're right. Yeah, the cops were kind of like, okay, I guess we'll take you to, Asylum General or whatever the local like facility is.
Yeah. Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, really, in a lot of ways, because almost immediately the next shot is we see Dr. Chenard, who's our main villain in the movie, and he is he is performing like brain surgery, I guess. He's got someone's brains he's just going to town on what appears to be a very I don't know how proper that procedure was. That was a lot of skin just kind of pulled out, and
they made him out to be the mad scientist pretty fucking
right
quick
from the get-go.
You already know that this guy's not. Yeah, he's not a. I guess there might be some questions about his medical license.
Maybe there's like different medical approvals in the UK or whatever, but yeah, you definitely get the sense of this guy has a god complex, and he's talking weird. He basically is talking about how the beyond and how medicine and doctors, and I don't know, he's just kind of going on and on. I mean, he's not calling himself out as a genius, but you kind of get that from the onset. And so the movie just kind of kicks off where I guess we're trying to understand what Kirsty saw in this home, and the doctors are kind of speaking to her, and she to them is speaking a bunch of jibber jabber, because it's just like, there's a box and the Cenobites and they came from the wall and everything, and they're just like, she's nuts. So they kind of leave her be, and then the movie just kind of takes off from there, I think, in a lot of ways, in that we just kind of start to see the underbelly of this hospital. Kirsty is trying to get people to believe her. Dr. Chenard, it turns out he is he and I guess his I don't know if it's his protege, but the other guy that's with him, Kyle.
Yeah,
Dr.
Kyle.
Kyle, I guess.
I don't know if he ever calls him doctor. I don't know if he was meant to be like an intern or. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what his position really was. It just seemed maybe like an assist, like a PA.
Yeah, maybe. Again, a very problematic, sort of like, I will just bring in whoever. This is Kyle, not doctor or anybody.
Yeah. He's definitely not. Yeah, he's definitely not his equal. The Chenard does not talk to him like he's an equal.
Yeah, absolutely.
At all. So I mean, I would have to say like this would be like a mental ward assistant.
Yeah. Yeah, he's trying to earn his way to doctor status from the hard way, I guess, like from intern up, without any medical actual licensing. But so the movie just kind of progresses along where we start to understand that Chenard is interested in Kirsty because it looks like he is up to some nefarious things, I guess. There are some certain people that he has set aside. The police are investigating the scene, I guess, of the crime scene where Hellraiser 1 left off, and they're talking about bringing that there's still evidence that needs to be collected, and Kirsty is trying to tell the police that they need to destroy the bed. And again, it sounds like jibber jabber, because it's like, what? It doesn't make any sense. And it's like, you have to destroy the bed or she's going to come back. You have to destroy the bed. And she just kind of goes on, and nobody's believing her. But lo and behold, Yeah,
Except,
Dr. Chenard has worked with the police to say, oh yeah, I need all the evidence and I need it brought to my house. I like how he's like, let me make it very clear. Bring it to my house. Don't bring it to the hospital. So he wants the bed delivered to his house. And through that, Kyle, I guess, quickly befriends Kirsty, and he is more empathetic and actually listening to Kirsty, and she's still talking about Cenobites and the box and the bed and everything, and Kyle's like, no, I mean, like, what would you like? And she's like, I need your help. We need to destroy that evidence. We need to destroy that bed. And so Kyle's like, all right, I'll look into it. And that's when he kind of stumbles into a couple things in Chenard's office that just doesn't seem right. And then quickly we see that Dr. Chenard has a couple of, I guess, like special patients that he has set aside in the ward. I guess in the lower, it looked like the lower levels, the lower dungeon area.
Yeah, it definitely was like the basement, like the bottom. Your typical, pipes everywhere and just water dripping, and it's dark and it's wet.
Very Nightmare on Elm Street, like kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very.
It was. It did not seem very sanitary, I would say. So yeah, we get what almost feels like a little bit of a haunted house ride, where it's like we get to meet a couple of the weird patients of the hospital as he's like sort of looking for each one, and then he picks out his I guess his experiment for the evening. And so Kyle decides to sort of follow the doctor and kind of gets out ahead of him and shows up to his residence, I guess, and kind of breaks in with some
some mad lockpicking skills.
Whatever Kyle did prior to being a PA or an intern or whatever, he may have been a master cat thief or something, because he breaks through or he unlocks the door with like a single like screwdriver sort of, I don't know. But he's got mad lockpicking skills for sure. He quickly goes into the home of Dr. Chenard, and he finds a number of lament configuration boxes. There's all kinds of writings and sort of weird, just weird imagery and weird documentation on something.
Yeah, journals of all kinds with diagrams and everything that he could find. He's
unsure what he has, and then the doctor shows up. The doctor brings in his experiment. This gentleman who I guess is like hallucinating, and he puts them on the bed and gives them a razor. And this is pretty much when the movie goes from I'd say a 6 or a 7 to about an 11 in terms of volume and full metal, because it goes to full gore as this patient basically he's hallucinating, seeing maggots on him, bugs and all kinds of stuff on him. So he gives him Dr. Chenard gives him a razor blade, and he starts taking that razor blade and just starts trying to cut off all these maggots and bugs and things. And so now he's bleeding all over the bed. And then lo and behold, the bed kind of comes to life, and Julia, or two hands come out from behind this poor patient, who we come to find out is Julia, who was in the first Hellraiser movie, played by Claire Higgins. She comes out of the bed without any skin, just pure muscle, very that PBS show that they used to have where they had the guy that was in a muscle suit. I don't know if you remember that guy.
Oh my God! Yes.
PBS. Yeah, as a PBS guy. Well, we're gonna have to look up what his name was, but he'd come out very jolly and always kind of dancing around. He had a bit of a 1970s afro. But this that's the closest thing I could think of.
Yeah.
When Julia comes out of the bed, she is just a giant, bloody, muscly, tendon stretching, gooey, like,
Yeah, that was amazing. It was amazing
yeah.
effects.
She just comes out of the bed. I guess the blood has brought her back through the bed. How all that works, I have no idea. But it just works in this universe. But yeah, those effects, all the stuff that we see is pretty amazing. It's the initial, like, first real gore scene of the movie, and it is full
Yeah.
throttle. It is really, really cool. And then Dr. Kyle, or intern Kyle, or whatever Kyle is, runs back to the hospital, gets with Kirsty, and is like, yeah, we need to get out of here. Or I need to get you out of here, and we need to figure out what's going on because the doctor's up to no good. And between that time, we quickly see that Julia is now, she's come to full form, and she is now talking with the doctor and telling the doctor, the good doctor, Chenard, that she can give him whatever he wants in terms of wanting to know what is, I guess he's trying to figure out whether what is beyond, like, maybe beyond life, beyond this realm, beyond, like, our existence.
Yeah.
It's very God complexy sort of stuff. Like, he just wants to know.
Yeah, he wants the
wants
knowledge.
the knowledge, regardless of what the knowledge is.
He wants to be all knowing, or whatever.
Basically God, I guess, in a lot of ways of knowing everything. And so Julia says that she can do that, but she's gonna need some skin. So she's gonna need some more. She needs some more of the goods, which the sanitarium or the whatever the mental ward maybe has plenty of offerings for Julia. And so the doctor brings a bunch of the patients. Julia does her thing and gets what she needs out of them. Kyle and Kirsty are, I guess, off to try to derail the doctor's nefarious schemes. And Kyle unknowingly runs into Julia, and not knowing what she looks like, because he only knows what this gooey red substance person is. He has no idea what she actually looks like with skin on. Quickly, like, falls under the I guess you could say the spell of Julia, and Kyle is taken out of the picture by Julia. And then shortly thereafter we get I think as part of what is needed here, there's a special patient at the mental ward who is Tiffany. She is a young patient in the hospital who is a master puzzle solver. I guess she's I assume they're out to making her, like, autistic, or they didn't really give her a name, or they didn't really give her like a much of a backstory, that other than she's mute, I think.
Yeah. I think I guess when whatever her traumatic experience was, I guess like it's not uncommon in other movies, I guess, where they kind of, they're so traumatized that they're not speaking, and she kind of lets out her she's coping mechanism is puzzles, right. And the doctor picks up on that pretty quick, and now that we know that he's been trying to discover the mysteries of the box, and that the fact that it's a puzzle and this and that, so he's been holding on to Tiffany because he's already identified her to be this genius puzzle solving patient. Yeah. So he's kind of just had her kept her put away so he could use her.
Yep, which is pretty much, this is the opportunity right at this point in the movie, where now that Julia has gotten all her skin, and the doctor wants to know, well, what do we need to do? And he's like, well, we need to open the box. So Tiffany has now been brought into the picture to help work on the box. Although Julia does warn the doctor, he's like, are you sure you want this? Because I think there's the doctor has no idea what he's getting into, really. And in a lot of ways, like, I think that's part of what I like about this movie is there's a lot of there's a whole world building element to this whole thing, and you just kind of accept it for what it is. And Tiffany, master puzzle solver, opens the puzzle and unleashes the Cenobites. And Kirsty, who has come back with Kyle to sort of derail the plans of the Doctor, is kind of caught up in all of this because the Cenobites show up and they recognize Kirsty, and they almost want to immediately take her back. Well, no, that's not true. I'm sorry.
No, I think they assume that she's the one who opened it.
But it's when they come across Tiffany, who has the box, and the Cenobites show up, they immediately understand that they're not there because somebody just randomly opened the box. They're back because somebody has like the desire of knowledge, I guess. So that's why the Cenobites are back. And so, the last half of the movie really goes a little apeshit, to be honest. It really just kind of the Cenobites are back. There's a lot of I guess what is the area where I guess where the Cenobites live, which they never really explain whether it's like heaven, hell, or a purgatory, or kind of in between. I guess that's what's kind of cool about it. This all leads to Leviathan, who I guess is the it's like the core, I guess, of the under, or this alternate dimension of where the Cenobites are from. And Kirsty is kind of navigating her way through there. She's trying to find her father from the prior movie, thinking that her father may still be alive. Turns out he's not. He's long gone. But she runs into Frank, who is the villain from the original Hellraiser. And there's a bit of a family reunion between Julia, Kirsty, and Frank, and they all kind of meet up. Frank is quickly taken out of the picture, and Julia gets her revenge on Frank from the original movie. So Julia and the Doctor kind of make their way to Leviathan, who's like it's just like it's not really a creature or a thing. It's really just like I don't know. It's like I don't know how you would describe it. Maybe sort of I
don't know, like an energy presence, just because it's not a being, but it's definitely
like
a thing.
An ominous sort of power that is sort of controlling that alternate dimension, or that third dimension or fourth dimension, whatever it may be. At that point, Dr. Chenard, with the help of Julia, are now there, and the box, or I guess Leviathan, decides that Dr. Chenard should be one of them, and if he really wants to know the all-knowing of what is beyond, I guess the all-knowing is becoming a Cenobite, and knowing beyond the realm of pain or pleasure, or anything beyond that, where I guess you're at a level even beyond any of those things that's even comprehensible. And Dr. Chenard is turned into a Cenobite, which is another pretty awesome scene, to be honest, when he is sort of pulled into another box and just kind of with
just transformed, basically,
with like
he converted into a
with bone wire and like all kinds of tubes and all kinds of needles and things. I mean, it's pretty awesome. That whole sequence of him being converted is pretty awesome. And then we basically have we kind of have a little bit of I guess the Doctor is now sort of, I guess you could say, sort of trying to take control of the situation, Dr. Chenard, and is basically just wanting to kill everybody now. I don't think he really cares about Julia at this point as much as like Tiffany and Kirsty and the other Cenobites. So he's trying to take them out. To be quite honest, the last half of the movie doesn't make a lot of sense. to be kind of frank,
Yeah.
it is kind of all over the place in a lot of ways. And basically just kind of leads to the finale with a showdown between the Cenobites and Dr. Channard, and Dr. Channard being outsmarted by Kirsty before going back to the real world. And that's kind of how the movie sort of wraps up from there. But it is for me, as maybe I didn't sell it super well, but this is an all-time classic for me personally. Just there are so many things I love about this movie that I'll speak to a little bit. I think one of the big things for me is like the musical score for this movie is so awesome. Like it's just right from the start. It kind of sets the tone for a movie that should be like a B type movie, has like such a serious tone of like such a operatic, kind of heavy symphony sort of music,
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I mean, well, we weren't quite at that point yet, but I mean, this was right before we became the band nerds, we were just about to dip our toes into that. So I think, we were already, the fact that we were already appreciating the music kind of, it was like we could foresee that, we were already, I guess, musically, we appreciate music, and so like this arrangement for this movie is outstanding.
Yeah.
For
because
what it is.
we, you and I being kids of the 80s, like we, if they had and they could have probably easily have wanted to do more of a synth score or something that's more like something more akin to the 80s, they could have been even, with Nightmare on Elm Street, or even like, and to be fair, like, John Carpenter was already kind of doing that kind of music, but it was more synthy and more, I don't know, had a certain kind of feel to it. Whereas like this was just very like, you could just imagine this big, opera hall with like, the opera singers behind them and the choir and like the instruments up in the front. And I love that because I think, that's a big part of what I really like about the movie. But I think, the other thing I like about this movie is like how much it feels very fantasy, more than it almost feels horror at times. It's very dreamy. Like it has like a certain kind of haze to it that feels very, soap opera, but I think as a kid, renting this from the video store, I think that's almost kind of what I liked about it is like, for as much as like, people were so concerned that this is the kind of stuff that would make us into, hooligans or bad kids, like you could kind of tell that a lot of this stuff was like not real. But I think that's what kind of made it fun, was like there was a certain like make-believe quality to it that, like, when we would play D&D and stuff like that, like I liked the idea of what would like a demon or this look like. And he's like, well, it might look like a pinhead, with all these nails in his head, very fantasy.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and even like the scenes, like the background was very fantasy like, the down the corridors and like open. It was almost like being in a dungeon with multiple, okay, which way are we going? It was just so, for as close of shots that the scenes were, it's still there were a bunch of different locations that when they were kind of just trying to find their way out, and those long hallway scenes, and then those open, like where they run into Frank was almost like a tomb.
Yeah.
So it was very like, that's obviously like in my recent or in my current D&D stuff that I'm doing with my kids and some coworkers, I've had them go through a crypt. I've had them go down long hallways with multiple, like, which way you guys want to go, so having those visuals there has definitely, it absolutely plays into the fantasy world, because I was watching, when we were watching this movie, I was just like, everything that I was seeing was helping with, I guess, to my what do they call it? Your eyes, your
Yeah.
mind's eye. You have to have that good visual to tell the stories when you're playing any type of RPG. So yeah, it was awesome seeing the environments that where this movie's taking place in, to kind of be like, oh yeah, that's a nice visual there. Like, I guess now that I have, this Dungeon Master brain for the last year and a half or so, now when I see stuff like this in the movie, I'm just like, I'm thinking of, that's what it would look like when I'm trying to describe it, now that we play once a month and all that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun just watching this movie again, just with a different perspective now, I guess, being older.
Yeah. And I think even thinking back to when we were younger, when we did play a little D&D, like I could totally see this, feels very H.P. Lovecraftian in the way of like, there's a big gate that leads into a sanitarium, and then there's like all these rooms in the sanitarium, but then there's the big observation room where they do like the brain surgery, and that's like a big it's a big sort of circular sort of room, and then that leads to some of the other rooms. But then if you go down a layer, like you were saying, you go to like where there's like those dungeons where like the freaky kind of more dangerous patients maybe are, and then that leads to another area, and then that leads to like where the opening where the Cenobites are. And so like if you really think about it in terms of like what you were saying, just step by step, like it really does play out like a really good like D&D sort of like adventure from start to finish, which I guess that's why I kind of feel the fantasy element of it, because like the puzzle box actually kind of did, like at one point I think they have the puzzle box and she like turns or does whatever and it fires out like a blue laser or something.
Yeah. And it opened up a secret door, and it opened, then the Cenobites came out, and it's like, it literally was like like a D&D game, a story, you solve the puzzle, the secret door opens, the creatures come out, and then you kind of get taken into there, and then you got to find your way out. And it was, it's such a classic movie.
I really love that aspect of it. And that's, I like how a lot of that sort of calls out, because it is very, it's brain vitamins, I think, for a lot of ways of just creativity, even though of course, it is quite gory. But that's also, another element that I really enjoy too, mostly because I love horror as like one of my favorite genres, is this movie has a lot of great special effects, in terms of like, Julia coming out of the bed, that, like you were saying, when we were talking about that sequence, it really still holds up today. I mean, it is, I don't know if that's exactly what the body would look like if he was completely, I've never been to that exhibit where they have all the, I don't know if you've seen the one where the humans are like cut in half, or they don't have like any skin, or I don't.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I have not been to that either, but I feel like I've seen it in Hellraiser, so I'll just assume maybe that's the way it is. But it looked pretty good. Like, I mean, for 1988, probably better than a lot of stuff I've seen today.
Really impressive.
Was there anything that, anything else that maybe you want to call out from the movie that you really liked, or aspects?
I mean, really just, I just watching it again, it made me really appreciate how iconic Pinhead was for the 80s, for this genre of movies, but just, I mean, because I still, I don't know, Pinhead, it just being so iconic. I mean, I hadn't seen this movie in over 30 years, easily. So, but just the fact that this movie, I guess movie series is just so memorable, because I know I was telling you, I took up 3D printing probably, I don't know, 2 years ago. And one of the first things I tried to look for was a 3D model of the box. And, and it's like, I hadn't, I don't talk about the Hellraiser, and I don't mention Pinhead. I've got, 3 adult boys now, and I got another teenager in high school. But I've never mentioned, I've never talked to them about, stuff I grew up with, I don't, like, they don't know anything about Hellraiser or, anything from this genre. But yeah, I still want to, even though I don't bring it up, I mean, the first thing that I wanted to look up was, I wanted to make a puzzle box.
Yeah.
Just that's how memorable this shit was from our, our youth. Even being out of my mind for like 30 years, I was like, no, that's what I want. I want to do that. And so yeah, no, just all the Cenobites. It was just such a cool time when we, around that age. We were young teenagers, and it was just like we were just living life, man. Just had Pinhead and just horror movies in general. The Friday the 13th and all that stuff. But just the effects, just loving the special effects. I mean, it was just pretty much that.
And I think, he has so much presence for so little amount of time that he's on the screen. He's not even really, not
kidding.
really at all a character or a main character. But like you said, I mean, I think and I keep coming back around to the D&D of it all, but I know when we would sketch or doodle on our books from school, on our book covers or whatever that we would have any surface to draw, it's like, well, I want to draw something cool. And it's like, well, Pinhead's very iconic. Like, I want to draw that, and it feels like a very D&D character, like his presence, the way he talks, like his gang of thugs that are kind of with him. They just have all cool silhouettes. They have very cool, they have a great presence, I guess one little quick story or an aside that I will tell, for this one, I was fortunate enough to, I was before the pandemic, I would do a lot of photography for the Alamo Drafthouse, and there was 1 year where it was a reunion. I guess I believe it was for Hellbound. May have been like the 30th anniversary or something, but they brought in all the Cenobites to be at a horror Texas Frightmare weekend convention here. It's a horror convention that they have, and they were showing Hellraiser, not Hellbound. I wish they had shown Hellbound, but they were showing Hellraiser, but they had brought all the actors that played the Cenobites. And so they had the guy who played the Chatterer, the one with the teeth that just kind of Nicholas Vince, and then they brought in the female Cenobite, Barbie Wild. Then they brought in Butterball, who's Simon Bamford. Yeah, I believe is that his name. And then, of course, they brought in Doug Bradley, who's the Pinhead. And I was lucky enough to photograph this event. That it was a screening of the Alamo, or at the Alamo Drafthouse. And they had just flown in from overseas from the UK. So they were having some serious jet lag. And they brought them in, and they were kind of like out in the, not like sort of the lobby aisle area behind, like where the people who were going to be watching the movie were. And I was standing back there with my camera, and they all came in, and they were like the nicest people that you could actually, you would ever meet, these older folks. And they all had clearly been drinking quite a bit, and they were talking about it because they were saying like they just needed a little juice to kind of keep them, I guess, kind of up and going, because they were trying to fight the jet lag. But they were so nice, and they were super nice to me, and I got to meet all of them and photograph them for the event. And I actually got to wait with them out in the parking lot while they were waiting for their hotel shuttle to come pick them up. I was just kind of out there shooting the shit with them, and they were just like the nicest people you could ever meet, even though you would very unassuming that they would be like these very like horrific villains. But yeah, the Cenobites were awesome. I got them to autograph my VHS copy of Hellbound. So that is a prized piece in my collection. So
is that behind glass?
No, it is not behind glass. I'm not a big fan of like, I still want to have it, where you can grab it and touch it, and because its value probably means more to me than it actually means if I was to sell it to somebody. But I'd rather have it out instead of in a glass case or in a plastic box. So but yeah, so that is Hellbound. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about um merchandising and format here. So I think one thing that I wanted to toss your way, and I think I showed this to you prior, but so in the original Hellraiser, there was a QVC type commercial that was hilarious that sort of came attached to the videotape, and it's only on the VHS, and it's only on the first Hellraiser. But there is an old grandma at the start of the movie who tells you to hang around and stay after the movie, after the credits, because Uline Cinema has some deals for you, and you should stay till after the movie, and that's all you see. And then the movie ends, the credits roll. After the credits, this commercial comes back on where this old woman, clearly probably somebody in their 20s who's been put in old lady makeup with her cat.
Oh, yeah.
Are watching this. They're watching Hellraiser, actually.
Her fake as hell cat.
They're watching Hellraiser, and after the movie, like the apartment is just completely trashed, assuming that the Cenobites have come and destroyed her apartment and killed her cat. But yeah, it's funny because after that they kind of try to sell you on a Hellraiser branded merch that I assume you can just order at home because it was all PO box. You could send in a postcard.
I think you could. I think it had numbers you could call, a phone number, and you would give them item number or blah blah blah, and that was for the gym bag or the members only.
Members only jacket or the coffee mug or cap or t-shirt. So yeah, when we're talking about inventory for our video store, Top Shelf Video, since I got to run this by you because you're also one of the owners, I would like to get all of that merchandise for our store. Tumbler.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think that was the tumbler, like you said, gym bag. That was the t-shirt, the members only jacket. So yeah, I'd like to get a little bit of all that stuff. And also, I think, format wise, you and I watched this together on Discord, and we watched my VHS copy, my screener, video store screener VHS copy of this. I think VHS is a great format for this movie. I don't, as much as I love VHS and would champion it, I don't think it's the only format to see anything and everything. I think there have been some recent 4K restorations of the movie that I think would look really good. And I think the movie still holds up in 4K. Like, I was actually kind of surprised. I thought maybe it would take away a little bit of something from the movie. But if anything, it adds a little more clarity, to like the scenes where Julia comes out of the bed. It really shows how well that makeup like holds up, because it doesn't look bad in 4K. It actually looks just as good as you would expect it to look. If anything, it's more vibrant and more, you see more of the goo and the guts and the sliminess and the shininess.
Yeah.
Like, it's really cool.
Yeah, I remember we did debate about this because I think I wanted to default right to the VHS just because of, I don't know, maybe because it's more fitting of an 80s horror movie. But as we started to talk, I think, how you were saying it doesn't take away from it. And I think I was kind of wrapped up in maybe a little bit of that stop motion from the, but when you think about it, there's not as much as I thought there was. I guess upgrading to like the 4Ks and the Blu-ray or DVD or laser disc or whatever. I guess I'm totally down for that. I hear what you're saying. You made a good argument to I guess convince me that it shouldn't be VHS only. So yeah, I'm good with different availability within the different medias.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think having this on VHS would be great. I think Laserdisc would also be just fine for a format like this. Um, you know, I definitely want some Blu-rays and some 4Ks of this as well too. I think it should be, I don't know. I think it should be celebrated as like a video store like staple, and because of that, I think especially with the 4Ks and some of the other newer restorations, there's really cool like art that comes with it. I think there's also like new audio commentaries, and there are other components, that I feel like, sort of behind the scenes sort of stuff that you get to see. It comes with booklets and stuff. And so I feel like for people that are big fans of Pinhead, and I feel like any of the 80s like staple iconic villains or monsters, I think Pinhead stands out, on top. Like as much as I love this movie though, I'm not really a big fan of the poster. I think the one that's more iconic to most people is the original, the first one.
The original
he's
Hellraiser.
Holding the lament configuration. This one has Tiffany kind of holding the box at the bottom. I think the original one just stands on its own in terms of iconography. That I have that poster. I think I have like it's a Russian version of that poster, but it's kind of the original poster art, and it just looks so cool. And him holding the lament configuration, I'd want that poster in our store more than I would probably want the Hellraiser 2 poster. So I think we should probably go in that direction. But I feel like I think to sort of ask the question, is this a top shelf video movie? Does this belong in the on what we would consider a must rent at our video store? For me personally, this absolutely is a top shelf video. It's not the best movie. I would in terms of like best movie in the series, like for me it is, but that's mostly just because I have a very close attachment to it. And I feel like growing up in the 80s, growing up in the video store, just a late Saturday night sort of horror movie, like you said, with the Little Caesars pizza and all the things that kind of come with it. Like, I feel like that this is like the one that's like the one that sort of hits the mark.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I'm definitely going to say it's a top shelf for sure. Yeah, I think it goes without saying. I mean, I think it kind of started our that phase of our life where we were kind of like appreciating, special effects and, just horror movies in general, yeah, it doesn't, I don't think there's a question. It's definitely a top shelf quality.
Yeah. No, I think, obviously I wouldn't rent this to, young kids in a family. But when they get old enough, I would hope that my nephew would want to watch this, and venture out and,
yeah, I think he's kind of leaning that way now. Now that we've exposed him to the video crypt and, one night of watching, some classic VHS stuff. And, yeah, I definitely, he's about to turn 15 next month. So he's already kind of, discovering this genre. Yeah. So I think he's he's ready.
And seeing that I watched this at age I guess I was maybe like 9 or 10. I probably saw this way too early, but I think it was very it didn't make me into a psychopath. It made me into a more creative sort of person, to be able to sort of pick these things and want to kind of venture out in this sort of fantasy kind of horror world.
Yeah. Why don't you have a story about the first time you watched this? People need to hear this story.
And I think I think another reason why this is a top shelf video pick for me, and maybe one of the first one of the first movies that I would say is so when we were younger, and like I said, I think I was maybe 10, or yeah, probably somewhere in that age range, 10. But we used to get together with the local kids in our neighborhood, and I was not really not I guess growing up at that young age and not understanding what it meant to go through changes in your life and what it meant to like girls and things like that. I didn't really understand some of our get-togethers that we would have, because these get-togethers that we would have were to bring sort of the boys and girls of the neighborhood together, and and I guess the idea was we were going to go rent movies from the video store. We would bring the videos back from a night out of getting some pizza and getting movies together. And in particular, we had rented a couple of horror movies, and this was one of them, Hellraiser 2. We brought it back, and this particular evening, there were a whole bunch of the neighborhood boys and girls. We're all roughly around the same age, anywhere between 10 to like 16. So we're in that junior high. Like we're starting to really understand, like, wanting to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever. And like I said, I wasn't really, I didn't really understand a lot of that culture, and partly just, like everybody kind of develops a little differently. And I was very anxious, and I had a lot of anxiety, and I had a lot of, just stuff that I didn't know that I had. I just, I guess I was always thought of myself as the weird kid because I didn't necessarily like girls. And it wasn't that I didn't like girls. It's just I didn't really understand the concept or how any of that would kind of play out. So this particular evening, we brought these movies back, and I think scary movies back then especially were kind of designed to make the girls kind of scared, and then they would kind of nuzzle up against the boys, be like, oh, I'm so scared. Yeah, protect me. And then, a little bit of like, holding the girl, by the shoulder, or kind of like putting her head like into your arm, because she doesn't want to look at the screen. She's kind of turning away, and then that kind of leads to a little bit of playing around and, a little kissing here and there. So that's, I guess that evening, that's pretty much what was designed for the evening. I didn't know that. I thought we were going to watch movies. And so as we're sitting here watching movies, and I start noticing as the movie's kind of going on, like people are starting to sort of peel away from the room, and they're going to other rooms, or they're kind of going outside into I know we used to kind of sit on the street curb and kind of chat and talk, and maybe sneak a drink here or there or whatever, like a wine cooler or something, which I guess was super dangerous back then. So as all this is kind of happening, I noticed that people are kind of peeling away, and it's just me and maybe a few other people there. But at one point, I think it's just like me and another girl. And we're the only two left kind of watching this movie. And I'm already kind of fascinated by this movie. Like I'm already super like drawn in, and I'm kind of like, what is going on? And that literally happened the first couple of minutes, when they show you the previously on Hellraiser, and I was kind of like, whoa, what the hell? Like, this is what's going on?
What is this?
And so as we're there, and I feel bad, because the girl that's there with me, she's kind of trying to talk to me, and she's kind of leaning into my shoulder and kind of like grabbing my arm, like sort of hugging my arm because she's scared, as she's watching the movie. And this all leads up to the part where Julia comes out of the bed. And pretty much at that point, I lost my shit, because I was kind of like, oh boy, like, I don't know what's going on right now. Like, this woman is coming out of the bed. And again, we had not seen Hellraiser 1, so I had no context that people could come out of beds like they did in the first Hellraiser. So I'm seeing this for the first time and was like, holy shit. Like, she's coming out of the bed. She's got no skin. How did they even do that from a movie magic standpoint? Like, I've seen other movies, but like, I've never seen anything like this. And I'm feeling like scared and excited and confused and everything, like every feeling you could have. It all rushed in at once as this is happening. And as that scene is happening, the girl next to me, she's like, oh, she's at that point, she's not even looking at the TV. She's like turned her head like into my shoulder and is kind of looking away. And she was like, oh, I don't know if I want to watch this. Do you want to go to another room or do you want to go outside? And I guess I assumed that was like my cue for like, oh, I'm going to go with her and we're going to like maybe make out or whatever. And I kind of looked back over. I was like, no, I was like, did you just not see what happened? Like this woman just came out of the bed. Like, that's amazing. Like I was like also not wanting to show that I was scared in front of other people, but I was just like, right. and she kind of got a little upset at me and then kind of got up and left. And I think she maybe went outside with some of the other people that were out there. And I think I want to say for at least like 20 minutes, I was the only person watching the movie. And I was just like tied to the movie because I was just like, dude, where is this going? Like, what is happening? And it was a crazy, crazy moment. But I feel like that was such a defining moment in my like youth as far as like what the video store could provide for me. And, obviously I love horror, but I feel like making that decision at the video store and bringing that back and then having that experience, it's just not something you can replicate. And I would hope that if I was renting this out of the video store, I would say, man, this thing could change your life. Like it changed my life. It threw me for like a loop. And that's why it has to be a top shelf video rental, for me. But yeah, wasn't, I am happily married now though. Like, I found a partner that also loves, this kind of, genre of film as well too. But I feel like, the video store can bring people together, that have similar taste. If you end up running into somebody who's in the horror aisle or the action aisle or the kung fu aisle, and then you're like, oh, you like kung fu too, and then it could lead to a love connection for all you know.
Oh yeah,
it's the part of the video store that we'll never, we almost won't ever have again, which is too bad. It was a very defining part of my person, I guess you could say. And
that's the moment that changed you. It's kind of like that was your Peter Parker spider bite. That night was when you changed.
Yeah, I absolutely was like, I need more of this. Like, I don't know what I felt, but I need more. Like, where can I get more of it? And it's like, I can get it from the video store. So yeah, that was sort of my personal attachment to this movie. And I think this movie will be in my top tier of movies for me personally, and also in our video stores. So,
right. Okay. So then, a couple questions, I guess, back to the, the co-owner. Okay. So since we are in the process of establishing what videos will be in our top shelf video, I guess we can assume that any video in our video store for rent on the top shelf is going to be a one night rental. Correct?
Yes, I think that our top shelf videos, we want to get as much. I think we want to get as many eyes and hands on those videos, and so you got a good point there. I think we definitely need to limit that to like a new release, or I wouldn't even call it new release. It's a top shelf rental. And so that means, it's got to be probably like, we expect you to have a plan, have a pizza, have whatever it is your favorite meal is in one night, watch this, and then bring it back to us the next day and report back if you'd like to. But we need to get this into more people's hands. And since we're not streamers, we got to get our inventory back. So that's a good call. Like our top shelf videos are definitely one night rentals, with an extra probably late fee if you don't get it back.
Yeah, higher late fees for top
we'll have
shelf.
To figure out what that number
video
is, but with inflation and all.
Oh yeah, for sure. So then I guess let's see. So horror is obviously a no-brainer. I mean, we're starting off with Hellraiser 2, so obviously we have a horror section. So I guess I was looking at, I guess, the numbers or looking at my notes. So we're definitely going to have an action section, a horror section, martial arts section, comedy, and I think we were talking about possibly something that would cover just international movies.
Yeah.
I don't think I guess I don't know. I've never been a fan of romance necessarily, but I think rom-coms would obviously fall into comedy. So so I don't know that romance necessarily needs its own section unless you think so.
I think dramas and things like that can still fall, drama can be, like romantic, or it can be like thriller. I
that's
feel
true. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I totally spaced out on the drama. Yeah. So drama would be the 6th section. So that way, as we go along, whatever movies we watch and we determine is not top shelf worthy, it'll obviously have to go into one of these categories. So that way we can start filling out the other shelves within the store, So, okay. Just want to make sure I've got my bins that I'm going to start, start filling up as we
and I still want to make sure we have, we'll have space for vinyl. I would even want to have some space for some board games, and things like that, because I think if we would be like, hey, if you like Hellbound, if you like sort of this fantasy demon world sort of stuff, there might be some board games that we can either, like, maybe we have a board game night during the week or weekend that leads into, like,
right.
Maybe leads into some of these movies. We can sort of theme some nights, fantasy nights or whatever.
For sure.
So we're gonna have to set aside some space for like board games, vinyl. We're gonna have to make space for merch, because we already talked about Hellraiser is gonna have like a merch section for sure, for T-shirts and bags.
That by itself. Yeah.
So we'll have to have some space for that, but
okay,
it should be good.
Okay. Definitely. Probably near the registers, a small popcorn machine, so we can have popcorn available while you're cruising and browsing the videos. I think we talked about that too. So that's definitely that's a for sure. Just the smell of popcorn just goes with movies.
I think we can probably work out some deals with some of our local pizza joints or other like joints that maybe a burger joint, or like back home there's like the Starlight Burger, places like that. We can always work out deals with some of those guys depending on what movies we have for that particular week. But I think we have a lot of cross promotion that we can definitely do with our store.
I think you and I, between the two of us working at Cinemark growing up, I think we have enough popcorn machine experience between you and me. I think we got that covered.
I can whip out some popcorn.
I can still do that shit with my eyes closed.
Whip out some popcorn if it's absolutely needed. It's not a problem. And I can still make sure that everything is stocked and that proper temperature for Coca-Cola is provided. I think as our series and our podcast kind of goes, I think we'll figure out some of the things. There may be other things we're not even thinking about that we may want to add to the store as well too, I think this is a good start. I think this is a good kickoff to our podcast, and hopefully over time, as we put this out, if people have suggestions of what we can put into our video store, we'd be open for that. Obviously we're going to want standees and all kinds of, posters and things like that. So we'll have to think about some of those things as well too. We'll have to rotate, obviously, or we'll have to expand, I guess, but right now, the sky's the limit, seeing that we have this infinite amount of the only thing I guess holding us back is just imagination on how we want to run our store. But
Yep. Well, now I have to start playing the lotto a little bit more frequently so we can have the money to actually make this
let's see
fantasy
if we can make this,
VHS
let's see if we can
real.
actually make this happen and give back to the people the experience of coming to our store, getting ready for the weekend, or even, maybe a midweek. Maybe you're somebody who who works on weekends, and your weekend is like Tuesday, Wednesday, or, Monday, Tuesday, and we can set you up, with kung fu, we can set you up with some action. We're going to try to cover as many like movies that were essential to us in the video store growing up, but there is actually a handful of movies that you and I have not seen that we are very familiar with the posters and what they meant to us, but we've never seen them. And I'd like to cover some of those movies too.
Yep.
And I think that's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
We'll see if the expectation of what we thought the movie was going to be based on posters and cover art
based on the poster
actually holds up, some 30, 35 years after the fact, so, but yeah, man, I'm excited. This is going to be fun.
Oh yeah. It's aside from regardless of where the podcast goes or who ends up listening, this is something that you and me as brothers get to do a project together just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
I mean, it's we get to talk about movies. We've kind of, our lives have taken us different places over the years. I joined the military. You went to the Art Institute and you worked your way through, and now you're working for these, you've worked for some high profile, gaming companies. And, I get to, I remember, through my Army life, like for 26 years, and I was always bragging about my brother who made video games because all the guys in the barracks were playing video games. I'm like, oh yeah, my brother worked on that. And they're like, what? And it was the coolest flex. I mean, now knowing that that's a thing, that I could, my flex was my brother makes video games, and and now we're kind of looking back now that we have we're older, we have the time, we can kind of sit back for a little bit, watch some movies together, laugh and joke about it. It's very I guess mystery science theater-ish when we're watching movies together, and I'm so looking forward to doing this for however long we do this, and just I'm just happy to be doing something with you.
It's going to be fun.
and it's in your wheelhouse. You've been the movie guy forever, and now that I've got the time, I can kind of go back and kind of lean on your resources and your expertise and be like, oh, you're going to want to watch this. Oh, you're going to watch this. And man, I words can't describe how excited I am.
I'm more than happy to slog you through the sewer of movies and things that I've watched over time, and the stuff that I get to collect at the I come across some really cool stuff at the VHS store, and we have some really cool VHS collectors and really good people. They have good taste in film. I think they have similar backgrounds, so finding some of these movies, that I've never even heard of, that only exist on VHS is really cool, and being able to experience that. And also the other side of it of seeing the updated versions of the 4K versions and seeing like the true vision of like, how something was intended to be filmed, but only lacked because of the video store, or the videotape sort of graininess of it all. But in the end, I think it's all just art, and I enjoy it all. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I would more than be happy to be your video store clerk, your guide, for some of these, but then there may be some, that are just classics to you and I, that, I'm sure we're definitely going to cover. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
And, let's, I guess we need to, probably need to open shop. Is what we need to do today. If you do you want to sweep up front, or do you want the back end duty? We got to get like some of the stuff set up behind the counter and when.
Yeah. I can get the stuff out the back and just kick the lights on.
I can sweep up front and make sure that the glass is clean. I can make sure that the neon sign is on. But yeah. We want to get some people inside Top Shelf Video for the week. So, all right, man, let's have a good work shift, and we will talk.
All right.
At the end of the shift. So.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
All right,
get
man.
this going.
I'll talk to you later.
Cool. All right. I'll see you after
See
shift.
ya.
Cool. Bye.